conservatives. Listen carefully to what she says about President Obama.
Obama has done some good things as president. Most of us don't notice those things because he has done them under the radar. We have this governmental structure. You can't wish it away by hoping for somebody who has passion, who has left convictions, who is this or who is that. We got Obama. Not bad. Not bad at all.
I have to tell you, if that was my mom or something, I'd say, okay, you're scaring all the Dalmatian puppies.
You're a spooky guy.
Yes, spooky guy even says, your puppies are scared now. Dye the hair. The other piece of video that I want to show you is, again, from the Beck forum, and it is an immigrant who said she came here, and then when she got here, she got involved with some leftist organization, and she went over to South Africa. She was there for 5 weeks, and listen to what she says. I just want you to know the kind of passion that people have that you're up against.
I started off, being an immigrant resident of the United States. When I left to South Africa, that's when really I started to see the parallels of the systemic racism in South Africa as well as in the United States. And so I was there for 5 weeks, and it was a real, very liberal kind of program. So it pushed me, but, it just pushed me enough to get me real pissed off. Pissed at white people, pissed at the U.S., pissed at what the U.S. flag meant and having to see it everywhere and anywhere. And so I was just really angry.
I mean, having to see the U.S. flag anywhere and everywhere. The reason why I show you these things is, I'll show you a little bit more from an actual communist here in a minute. These people are organized. They are passionate. They're also, they're not giving up on Tuesday. You need a clear mandate. The right needs to be able to come out and send a message not only to the Democrats, but to the Republicans as well. The Constitution and the Republic for which we stand. That's what we're supposed to be standing for, the Republic and the Constitution. And if our politicians don't stand for them soon, there won't be much left to stand for. Make sure you get out and vote, and you wake everybody you can up and get them out to vote. Back in a minute.
December 15, 2005, 76% of eligible Iraqis risked literally everything to exercise their right to vote. A year later in America, there were major rainstorms in the Northwest, otherwise a pretty ordinary day, Election Day. 37% of eligible Americans took the time to vote. What's wrong with this picture? This November, stand up, vote for America.
We have some really good news coming for you in just a second, a ray of sunshine, but we're back on voter fraud with John Fund, author of Stealing Elections, How Voter Fraud Threatens Your Democracy. Scott Baker, he's a managing editor of theblaze.com. Let me go up to John. You had an observation.
Yes, I voted early in Florida with my family, and they were busing kids in from the college to vote for Obama's side.
Is that well, how do you know it was for Obama's side?
All the people that were giving out the literature in the parking lot kind of looked at me strange when I walked up.
Huh.
That's legal. And we've seen this in Ohio.
I think that's legal. It's maybe unorthodox, but if you offer people a ride to the polls, that's okay.
Right.
Well, they were busing high school kids in Ohio to vote, the ones of age to vote, and they were giving them Democratic sample ballots and then rewarding them with ice cream. So this is the time, though, where we do have the power to watch and observe. We're not going to get rid of voter fraud overnight. Like, it's fraud and deception's been here since probably Jacob pretended to be Esau. We're going to have this. But now we're in an era where we have the tools, we have apps you can use to report voter fraud, and it's harder and harder for people to hide this stuff.
Tom.
I kind of feel that we're being forced to accept voter fraud as part of the election process.
But I think voter fraud is part of it. It always has been. That was your point.
But doesn't something have to be done about it?
Yes, that's different.
why we're having this show, and that's why I think some prosecutors are doing a good job of going after voter fraud. But prosecutors pursue more voter fraud cases if they hear from people like you saying, this is an issue we care about.
And it's, you know, we went to Francis Fox Piven. Francis Fox Piven is tied to the motor voter law, which is tied to Obama and Acorn. And
Obama was Acorn's lawyer defending the motor voter law.
It's the same little, and a lot of it starts with spooky, dude. Karina.
Yeah, I have a question. Why does Eric Holder allow the new Black Panther Party to partake in voter intimidation? Like, why is there such a double standard here?
Well, it's even worse than that. There are 16 states that have not cleaned up their voter registration rolls. Some states have more people registered to vote than there are adults over the age of 18 in that state. What did Eric Holder do as soon as he took over as justice? He dropped the lawsuit against Missouri, which was the only lawsuit outstanding, and he has had his own deputy tell the Justice Department lawyers, we are not going to pursue any of these cases demanding states clean up voter rolls. It is more than a double standard. It is selective enforcement of the law.
Back in just a second.
If not us, who? And if not now, when?
I'm a big fan of Frank Capra. I'm a fan of Mr. Smith Goes to Washington and It's a Wonderful Life. And I think we are facing right now a choice between Pottersville and Bedford Falls, George Bailey. There are those George Baileys or Mr. Smiths out there. We just have to find them. A lot of people have written in. I believe we have one to show you. Meet a real-life George Bailey.
Just remember this, Mr. Potter, that this rabble you're talking about, they do most of the working and paying and living and dying in this community. Now, we can get through this thing all right. We've got to stick together, though. We've got to have faith in each other.
Bedford Falls was a town that loved its old savings and loan, and the man who ran it, who genuinely cared about the people he served. The same is true for the real-life town of Oak Park, Illinois, and a man named Mike Kelly. 65-year-old Kelly was the deeply generous, media-shy billionaire who, until last year, ran Park National Bank and 8 other community banks all across the country. Well, unlike George Bailey's building and loan, Kelly's Park National and others didn't survive. Last year, the assets of his First Bank of Oak Park Corporation were seized by the FDIC shortly after Fannie and Freddie went under.
We took a $900 million hit that wiped out over half of our capital on September 7th. We were never able to recover.
So in some respect, your mistake was you trusted your government, which told you to go out and invest in Fannie and
We did
Freddie.
believe that the government backed these instruments.
Kelly's banks provided financial and moral support to the local businesses and residents that needed it. In 2007 and 2008 alone, they made community donations and investments totaling $55 million.
Groups throughout the entire region have come together to rally to support Park National Bank in the aftermath of this ill-advised takeover by the FDIC. People have been up in arms about it.
Oak Park, Illinois Village President Dave Pope told us his town has been profoundly helped by Mike Kelly.
Park National Bank was the largest privately held bank in the United States and took a very large share of profits and reinvested those in the community.
If it wasn't for Mike Kelly, the West Suburban Journal would not have made it to press.
Publisher Nicole Trotty met Kelly at a homeless shelter in 2003, where they were both volunteering. She later reached out to him to help her launch a community newspaper she couldn't get funding for.
He had compassion and a genuine concern for the people in the communities that he served. I shared with Mike my story of launching the newspaper and my struggles, and he asked to see the business plan.
From health clinics on the west side to Catholic schools on the south side, you name it, Park National Bank had a piece in it. I first met Mr. Kelly while I was a police sergeant for the Oak Park Police Department.
When a local cop was murdered, Jacques Conway went straight to Mike Kelly for help in catching his killer.
And I approached him regarding, listen, you know, we really need to bring this offender into justice. And he says, would $100,000 help?
Kelly doesn't want any fame for all of his good deeds. He likes to remain invisible. We reached out to him, but we never heard back.
For him, it's always been about doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do, and not because he's going to receive any recognition or anything for it.
So we wanted to give him recognition for that.
I truly believe that Mike Kelly was the George Bailey of this town.
He is a George Bailey of the Chicago area, but he's a better businessman than George Bailey in a sense that thousands of lives were positively affected.
I mean, I think the example that Mike set has been a model for all of us.
Pottersville or Bailey Park? You decide on Tuesday. Back in a minute. John Fun, Scott Baker, and this wonderful audience. Everybody like this. Everybody do this with your hands. Because it's Halloween, we say good night to Spooky Dude. Good night, Spooky Dude. Good night. From New York, good night, America.